Hey, so we are finally here with Mr. Tom Connelly of Safe Solutions Childproofing and Pool Fencing up in the Massachusetts area. Where in Massachusetts are you? I forget.
I'm in, it's a town called Mansfield, which is right near Foxborough.
Okay, very nice. And I think his thing might say Matt Connelly because he's on his son's computer. Yeah, that's all right, though. We'll leave it. Yeah, so Tom is actually one of our lifesavers up in Massachusetts. So he, goes to people's backyards and offers them pool fencing and installs pool fencing. But more importantly for this, because we've had a lot of water safety people on, and even though I do want to talk about that, Tom is a professional childproofer and has been for a long time. How long?
Over 15 years on my own.
That's a long time. And how long? So you worked for somebody first?
I worked for someone for 3 years and
Okay.
then said, I can do this myself. And so went out on my own about 15 years ago.
Nice. So that goes to where I was headed. So I usually ask people what their, how superheroes have an origin story. So what is your superhero origin story? How did you get started? What kind of led you to childproofing? What was the the course of your life that got you to where you are now?
So I used to teach autistic children.
Okay.
Did that for about 10 years.
Why'd you decide to do that?
I graduated with a BA in psychology.
Okay.
It was really the only job I could get because psychology doesn't get you much
right
when you graduate.
Unless you get a doctorate, unless you go all the way.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was more for meeting girls in college than anything else, the psych degree.
Right.
So then got a little burnt out on that. And
is it good for that, by the way? Does a psych degree help with getting girls?
Doesn't help me. It might help
okay.
But so then I went back to school to become an occupational therapist.
Okay.
And I got a degree in occupational therapy. Did that for a while. And then Medicare changed its whole reimbursement rates. And so the whole therapy landscape changed. It was more about generating revenue and capturing minutes and doing paperwork than patient care. So
right.
I really wasn't happy with what I was doing. And a gentleman childproofed my brother-in-law's house, was talking with him. He needed some help. So I decided to, explore that avenue.
Right.
So I worked for him for about 3 years and then decided to go out on my own. The good thing was I was still able to do per diem therapy work to supplement the childproofing till it got off the ground.
Nice. So did you have your own occupational therapy practice or were you working somewhere?
I was working basically in skilled nursing facilities. Working with people who were too sick to go home, but not sick enough to stay in the hospital.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I've had quite a bit of occupational therapy myself. I'm not sure if it's done me any good, but I've had my fair share of it, Interesting. So childproofing. So what struck you about childproofing that you liked it?
I liked, sometimes working with the elderly.
Right.
They're not in a good place in their life.
Right. Yeah.
They just got out of the hospital or they had an illness or an injury. Here I was dealing with people who were in a good place in their life. They were happy. You were providing a service that they really enjoyed and really appreciated. And it was, it was needed for them too. So
that's really cool.
You were doing good. I wasn't dealing with insurance companies. It was different every day.
That's really cool.
Yes.
So you've been doing it for 15 years, you said, right? On your own. So 18 total. Yep. And always in Massachusetts?
I cover Rhode Island because the Rhode Island border is about 20 minutes from the house and parts of southern New Hampshire.
Gotcha. All right. And I know that you also do the pool fencing. At what percentage of your business is childproofing versus pool fencing?
So how I got started in the pool fencing was people would ask me, what should we do about the pool? and
Sure.
I would tell them to fill it in, and they
Really?
didn't like the answer.
That's
So
what you told them?
yeah, I said that's the safest thing. Fill it in.
That is, I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah. I mean, that is the safest thing to do.
And so then I started researching, how to safety proof the pool, and I researched. I found Lifesaver to be the best fence out there, and so hooked up with Steve, who's the main coordinator.
He's the VP, Vice President of Business Development. I think it's his official title now.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so I started doing the fence about 13 years ago.
Okay.
And so the fence is probably 40% of the income, but that is pushed into like 3 main months.
Right, exactly. And
May and June. And
right, and childproofing you do all year long.
Childproofing I do all year round. Yes.
Gotcha. So why should somebody hire a professional childproofer? Do you really need an actual childproofer? Can you do it yourself?
Yeah, you can do it yourself.
Okay.
They're people are handy, and
Sure.
people can research, and people can get things and do it themselves.
Right. There's Google and YouTube and the internet now. There's a lot of resources out there.
But that's a lot of work.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I say that the biggest issue is knowing the right product to get, because you can read reviews online, and not all gates work in all areas, not all latches work in all cabinets or drawers. So the biggest issue is knowing what to get. So you don't need to have a childproofer, but a lot of times, I'm going to be much more efficient if you're going to buy good stuff anyway. To pay someone the labor to install it is kind of worth it. And also it does help to have another set of eyes just to point out things that people don't realize, such as, the tips on doorstops. Statistics are 6 kids a year choke on doorstop tips.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, that's something that people don't realize, or they wouldn't have never thought of that. So we do point out things that people don't realize. It's almost like insurance. You hope you're not using it, but you're paying the childproofer to do it, and all the odds are nothing's going to happen, but you don't want a catastrophe to happen. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, I would just liken it, just thinking about it for 2 seconds. I mean, you don't need a dishwasher either, but it sure does make your life easier if you've got one, rather than hand washing every dish.
Absolutely, yes.
It saves time, and time is important. And
it's not a service for everyone, because it's it can be costly for some people. Mm-hmm. So, but the people,
how is it priced?
I price it per material, per latch, per gate, whatever, and then I give them a price on on labor. So it's materials and labor. So I know if I'm doing 2 gates, 30 latches, and attaching 4 pieces of furniture, that's going to be about 2.5 hours. So,
gotcha.
So I've been doing it long enough to know how long it's going to take.
But you can figure it out.
Yeah, and for the people who can afford the service, it's their time is valuable. So why spend 3 weekends going and getting stuff, returning it that it doesn't work, and when you can just call me and I can do it in 4 hours, what a homeowner might take a couple weekends to do.
Right, and if a homeowner does it, God knows what they'll come up with, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, have you seen anything that's been particularly bizarre or interesting or funny that people have done themselves?
They used painter's tape to tape the drawers shut.
No, really.
And how painter's tape isn't very strong.
No, it's not. It's literally the point of it is supposed to come off without peeling your paint off. Right?
That's because they didn't want to take the finish off their cabinet, so they used painter's tape instead of duct tape. And then so the child can just pull the drawer open. I've seen gates mounted upside down, where the latch is, 2 inches off the ground, upside
Right.
down, or people mount over the baseboard and the baseboard's 8 inches and the child can just crawl right
All
under.
underneath. Yeah.
Yes. So, you know, the typical hair ties, rubber
Right.
bands, things like that. So, yeah, it's at least they tried, I say.
Right. That's better than nothing, probably.
Right.
Maybe.
Sometimes, in some cases.
People like to use zip ties a lot on pool fences. We get a lot of people who tell us, who do the do-it-yourself pool fence, that we put in the fence, but we didn't use those silly latches. We got zip ties instead, instead of the hook and eyes, and they work great.
Right.
I've had at least 10 customers tell me that they've used zip ties instead of our latches, which makes me wonder about the latches actually. But yeah, it's weird that people like those ties so much.
Yeah, and so they have furniture straps that are like zip ties.
Right. Those are cool though.
Those aren't the best because over time they get brittle. And so manufacturers recommend changing them every 6 months.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. So imagine a zip tie that's on a pool fence out in the elements.
Right. Exactly.
Hold up.
So what kind of furniture straps should people get then?
I like nylon ones with like the tie down buckle. You want metal buckles and the nylon straps.
Okay. Who makes those?
Safety Innovations makes some of them. There are some other companies that make the metal ones, but their Safety Innovations is one of my main suppliers. So I haven't looked elsewhere for other straps, but I've seen other metal ones.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen the plastic ones. I haven't run across the metal ones yet.
Yeah, the plastic is better than the zip tie.
Right.
But I still like the metal ones.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I'm sure they're a little more expensive, but I mean,
exactly.
So many kids die a year from furniture falling on them. I mean, that's a major hazard. So I think it's worth doing correctly.
Right, and that happens when you think you're out of the woods. The child, they're 3 or 4, and they're not falling down the stairs. They're not, they know not to open up the bleach and all that. But a piece of furniture that's been in their room for 5 years and no one's thought about it until, an accident happens.
I actually know a guy, an adult, who passed away from that recently.
Really?
Yeah, a man. Yeah, furniture fell on him, and yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
It was. It really, really was. So, I mean, we talked about the furniture. What other, hazards in the home do you like to point out to people? Kind of the top 10, top 5, whatever.
Certainly, what I'd say is kind of sometimes the biggest hazard is stuff.
Stuff?
Stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Because people are aware of,
I mean, stuff like toys and tchotchkes and your grandma's whatever, China, and that pewter figure from Japan, and
exactly.
Like that. Okay.
People are aware that the stairs are bad, so so they take care of the stairs. They're aware that under the kitchen sink they've got to take care of, but that tall, book curio cabinet that's got something really top heavy on top of it, that if you just shake it a little bit and this thing comes falling down on them, it's their old wicker baskets that they've had in college, laundry baskets that are fraying and kids pick at and put it in their mouth. It's all the stuff that you've had around for years that wasn't an issue when you didn't have a child. That's just part of your normal scenery, and you don't think about it anymore.
And you get kind of snowblind to it because you're used to seeing it. You've been looking at it for 10 years.
Right.
So, it doesn't stand out anymore.
Right. It's a pen to you. It's a spear to them. Or, the clicker that always falls on the floor and the back doesn't work well and the batteries spill out, but then when you have a child, the batteries are a hazard to them.
Sure.
Or that back comes out really easily and they can access the batteries and put it in their mouth, and choke hazards and all the bad stuff like that. So
stuff is one. What's another one?
Then, the stairs is a big issue. I think furniture the furniture tipping is right up there because people don't realize it as much. They say, "Oh, that's a good piece of furniture. That's really heavy." I'm like, "Yeah, that's just more
That's the problem.
fall on them."
Right.
Because when you shift that weight forward, open drawers, and change the whole center of gravity, and then you have a child try and climb up, it's just because it's a nice piece of furniture, not from IKEA that had all the problems. They think it's going to be okay, but anything taller than it is wide is more unstable. If you get a piece of furniture, you want to open the drawers, push on it, see what happens with it. So furniture is really bad. The Tide Pods, the washing machine pods,
right?
They look like candy.
They do,
and even college kids are eating them.
Right, they look delicious. That's why. I mean, I've only had a few. I'm going to keep trying until I find the good ones. But so far, I've enjoyed all of them. Yeah, exactly. So I remember my dad used to be a childproofer, and he used to talk about crawling around on his hands and knees throughout the house to be at baby eye level to see what you hit your head on, what you can catch, what you can see, what you can reach. Is that something you do? Is that something you recommend?
It's not something I do. I know a lot of childproofers do crawl around and sort of. I've been doing it for a while, so kind of know what to look for, what they can hit their head on. Certainly, it helps to look underneath things to see if there are any little small chokables or something like that. But generally, I don't crawl around.
Would that be something smart for parents to do who are kind of doing their own DIY childproofing?
Yeah, just because they're not exactly sure what to look for. I kind of know what I've been doing it for a while. I know what to look for when I come into a home, and so it would be good for them to get on their hands and knees and get that perspective. But also know that a lot of parents think, oh, childproofing, we don't have to do the top drawer.
Right.
The baby's going to grow.
Right.
Grow. And so
they climb.
Yes. Just because you went on your hands and knees one time doesn't mean that the hazards aren't moving up, and you've got to do that every 6 months or so just to look to see from a different perspective with the child's development. What's their development now? What's their motor skills like now? So what can they get into?
Are there specific things at specific ages that you think parents should look out for? Is there something that you want to look out for a 5-year-old versus a 18-month-old?
In that first year, you really want to look out for the chokables.
Right. Okay.
Things. The plants that, I don't know if your plants are like my plants, but they die and the leaves fall on the floor.
Right.
And the child grabs them, puts it in their mouth, and could be chokables. Or little refrigerator magnets that, they held too much stuff on the refrigerator. They fall down. You can't find them, but they can find them. So at 6, you really want to be careful in the beginning stage of the chokables. And then, once children are, can you repeat the question? I don't want to give a disjointed answer.
No, you're doing perfect. I'm looking for what childproofing things to look out for at different ages.
Okay.
So, like you said, under 1 chokables. If there's another bracket, maybe 1 to 3. I'm not sure where the cutoff would be. 1 to 2, 1 to 3, and so on. Maybe up to like 5 or so years old.
Okay. So, and then you always have to worry about the stairs. Once they start crawling, you have to worry about the stairs. Right. It's tough to put an age on child development because everyone
absolutely
develops differently. Mm-hmm. So, first you're worried from the knee down as they're crawling. And then as they get older and they can reach things, or they want to go up and down the stairs, you certainly have to worry about the stairs. And then, so you're worried kind of about everything in that first 2.5, 3 years. And then it shifts after that. Then you're worried about window safety as they get older. Okay. Window safety, a lot of the furniture tipping, climbing, although the furniture tipping can happen early in stages. But like I said before, the child's 4, you think you're out of the woods with things, but that's when the furniture can tip on them, or the window safety, or any sort of like blind cords you want to be careful of once they can reach them and they're playing with them. And
No, that makes perfect sense. So you talked about the stairs a lot, and the best way to protect the stairs is a gate, right?
Yes.
So what kind of things should someone look for in a gate? What are your recommendations for gates?
Well, I recommend doing top and bottom.
Okay, top and bottom.
Yes. Parents say, do we have to do the bottom? You don't have to do anything.
Right.
No one wants to be told how to parent their child.
Of course.
So I don't tell people what to do. I just make recommendations.
Right.
So, but a child can climb halfway up the stairs and not
fall back down.
Come down the right way. So it's the same as why you would have a gate at the bottom.
Right.
And if you don't have, or a gate at the top.
At the top, yeah.
If you don't have a gate at the bottom, you have to stop what you're doing every single time they go over to the stairs. So at the tops of stairs, you want a full swing gate. You don't want a pressure gate because it's pressure, one.
So what's the difference?
So a pressure gate, there are 2 different types of pressure gates. They're the kind that you just, I don't know if you've seen, they're sort of like crisscrossing, you push them down. And
I have. I just figured someone else might not have. So
okay.
Yeah.
So that is more like a wall.
Okay.
You have to totally remove that gate.
The whole thing.
Yeah. Those aren't.
Or step over it? Are they tall enough to step over?
Well, you don't want to step over a gate because then you show a child that's how you interact with the gate.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they will have the motor skills to climb over a gate before they know how to unlatch it. So if they see you close the gate behind you all the time, they'll go to close it when it's left open. Or when they want to go through it, they'll try and open the latch rather than climb over it because they see you go through it.
I see. Okay.
So with the pressure gate, you don't want a pressure gate at the top of the stairs. The pressure gate is basically tension. And so over time that can loosen up.
So there's one kind of pressure gate that's like a wall that you remove entirely every time. And there's another one with a door, right?
And there's the other one with the door. And you don't want that at the top of the stairs because that has a bar or threshold that keeps the gate in place when you open the door. And that bar can be a trip hazard at the top of the stairs.
Okay.
So that's another reason you don't want a pressure gate at the top of the stairs. One, it's pressure. If a child pushes hard enough, it can go down. And 2, the trip hazard of the bar. So you want a gate that is hardware mounted, that screws into the wall. I know some people can't accept drilling holes into their wall, but as I tell them, it's going to do a lot more damage than I am.
Right. Yeah.
So
if that's their biggest concern is little holes in the wall, they haven't realized the extent of chaos that's about to hit their home.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So a full swing gate, hardware mounted. That means the whole thing swings open. You don't want it to swing out over the stairs. You only want it to swing into the hallway, away from the stairs.
Right.
Because if someone leaves the gate unlatched, you don't want a child to lean on it and it goes out over the stairs and they topple down the stairs.
That makes perfect sense.
And you want vertical bars. Yeah, vertical, not horizontal. You don't want something that has like a, what's that?
Not something you can climb.
Yeah, yeah. Right. You don't want something they can climb. So if they're vertical bars, it's harder to climb than like crisscross because everyone remembers like climbing a chain link fence or something like that. So that's, you don't want something like that a child could easily climb, or something that's straight solid that they can sort of scale up also.
Right. Because they're tiny little acrobatic ninjas.
Yes, exactly. Yes. They will try to find a way. But because I taught them better.
Oh, is that it? Because you're the perfect parent, so your kids are fine.
Well, I do tell people that, people call me up, oh, my child's 2.5, going, I want to keep them upstairs. And I say, gates are recommended to come down between 2 and 2.5, because that's when a child can figure out how to get around it by like pushing up a stool and climbing over it. And I tell people gates are for safety. They're not for containment. If you have a child that can climb over a gate, they've got the motor skills to go up and down the stairs safely.
Right.
You might not want them to, but that's where parenting comes in. A gate doesn't take the place of parenting.
Have you heard any crazy stories about kids getting into like something ridiculous, or any crazy ninja child stories of them scaling a wall and doing a backflip?
On Facebook recently, someone had double stacked a gate in a doorway. So there are 2 gates on top of each other.
Okay.
And they're playing the Mission Impossible music while the child climbed over the gate. And
no.
And so people are like, "Oh, that's great." And I said, "No, that's awful." So
you taught that kid how to climb the gates.
Right. Yeah. And you're filming it and you're probably laughing. It's encouraging him. It's like I said, it doesn't take the place of parenting.
No.
But kids can be ingenious and get into lots of different things. So that's why. Go
ahead.
That's why it's good to start at an early age. Like I recommend between 6 and 9 months, because once they just start to explore their environment, you want to have a gate in place,
right?
Because that gate will be a natural part of the scenery,
right?
Like I said, they see you go through it, you open it up, you go through it. They'll try and do that, they can't. So when they're exploring the environment, the gate is a natural part of the scenery, they won't try and get around it. They've been going up and down the stairs, at 18 months, and all of a sudden a gate gets put there. It's not supposed to be there.
Right.
It's taking away their fun.
Yeah.
So you want to do it early. We took down the gate at the bottom of the stairs when my son was 3. The oldest one was 3, and he cried because, that's what wasn't normal.
Right.
So if you have these products in place, it's going to be a natural part of the scenery. If you have all your cabinets latched, the child's can't get in. Might try again, can't get in. Then it's going to go away and not try and get in anymore because it didn't get any satisfaction. And then when the child's 6, the parents still have the latch on the cabinet because that's just what they're used to, even though the child's undoing the latch themselves now.
It reminds me of the elephant story with the stick with the chain. You know that?
I don't know if I know that story.
So it might be true. I'm not sure. But allegedly, the story is that elephants are contained with a stake in the ground with a rope attached to them. And it starts when they're babies. And when they're babies, they can't pull the rope. They can't break the rope. They can't pull the stake out of the ground. And then they leave it until they're adults. And by the time they're adults, their brain still says, I can't yank it out of the ground. Now they can rip a tree out of the ground if they wanted to, right? They're full-grown elephants. They can break a chain. They can do whatever they want. But because they believe that stake is immovable, because they've been trying it since they were little, that's enough to keep them contained. Like that's still all you need because they think that they're stuck there, So kind of like what you were saying about the cabinet latches or the gates, that they don't know they can get through it, So speaking of cabinet latches, go ahead.
They're top door locks that are made of plastic that a child could break if they wanted to when they get older, but they're used to it being there. So they don't even try anymore.
Yeah, they've already learned that it's inaccessible and it's off limits and you can't do it.
Right, exactly.
So what kind of latches do you like for cabinets?
Well, there are 2 main types of latches.
Okay.
There are magnetic kind, where you actually hold a magnet to the outside and the latch is on the inside, and it disengages the latch and you open it up.
I showed that to my girlfriend. She thought it looked like magic. She was so excited doing those. She loved that latch. I have no idea why. She must have done it 20 times. She thought it was the coolest thing. Yeah.
You shouldn't date 5-year-olds.
Yeah, that's the problem.
No, I'm just kidding. But so those are kind of absolute.
Right.
You can't get in unless you have the magnet, unless you're
Right.
a full-grown adult and break the latch.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I don't tell people what to do. I just make recommendations. So the other kind of latch, you open it up a little bit, press it down, open it the rest of the way. So some people find having to get the magnet every time is inconvenient.
I was going to say, do people lose the magnet? Because I would lose the magnet.
Yes, people lose a magnet. I usually make sure they have enough and tell them to hide one, when they start losing them. So people do find that kind of inconvenient, but some people really want the safety of that. So, the press down latches, eventually the child can figure that out. But at that point, has there been parenting? Are they worried about the child getting into things? So it's really, parent specific. I probably do about 80% press down latch.
Gotcha. So. And should we latch the bathroom, the kitchen, everything?
Well, I recommend, like in the kitchen, in the areas that they're going to be in, maybe unsupervised. Everyone says, "Oh, I never take my eyes off the baby."
Yeah, those people terrify me.
Yeah, and that's not a good life to lead.
No, it's not.
Constantly having to watch a child. It's nice when they can be independent. They can sit on the floor and read a book or something like that, or play with a toy. So, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought.
I was asking latches. Where should you put them? Cabinet, bathroom, kitchen?
So, like in the kitchen, the main area, I recommend latching everything.
Okay.
You send counter down. Above the countertop, that's a parenting issue. So that sends a clear message that cabinets are off limits.
Right.
And so sometimes if a child can get into one cabinet but can't get into the other one, they might just try harder to get into the other.
Right. That makes sense.
So I do recommend being consistent and latching everything. Like I say, I don't tell people. I recommend. Some people don't like that. So if they just want to do under the sink, then I would strongly recommend doing the magnetic one, because the child can't get in unless they have the magnet.
Right.
So if you're only doing a couple, I would do the magnets. But I would. A lot of times in the city, I do a lot of childproofing in Boston. You don't have a big kitchen.
Right.
And you don't want a child taking out pots and pans or Tupperware on the floor while you're trying to cook. And so, or you don't have a lot of storage space. So every cabinet might have something bad in it. And this way you don't have to worry about what you put in a cabinet or a drawer if you go ahead and latch everything.
And I like what you said about the consistency too, that, if all latches are off limits, if all cabinets are off limits, then, they won't pursue the ones that are latched as aggressively.
Right.
That's a good thought, and kind of counterintuitive. So, again, why it's good to have a professional childproofer.
I hear that a lot from parents. We never really needed those latches. Well, that's because they couldn't get into anything at first, and then they didn't try. So.
No, it makes sense. So what age should they take the latches off?
Yeah, that's child specific. If the child can open it,
right,
the latch, then
I would take it off.
There's really no reason to have it on anymore.
That makes sense. And again, this is kind of age specific, but when should someone childproof?
Like I said, in that 6 to 9 months, I think is a good range. Once they start getting up on their knees and look like they're going to start crawling, then it's time to think about it. But when they first start crawling, they're not that fast.
Sure.
You do have a little bit of time developmental wise. I've had people call me and while they're pregnant and want to get childproofed, or they just had a baby. I'm still on maternity leave. I want you to childproof, and I will if they really want me to, but I tell them, it's too early. You're not going to see any value of these products maybe for the next 6 to 9 months.
Right, and they're going to drive you nuts in the meantime.
Right, yeah. And then you're going to have a friend who comes in, oh, why'd you do all that? And then they'll tell them I did it, and then they'll say, I don't want to hire that guy. he does everything, and they didn't even need it. So
Right.
I tell people, call me back. We can always find an appointment. If you work, I do some weekends also. So don't do it too early.
Right. So because it's May, I do want to talk about water safety a little bit. And you obviously focus a lot on water safety and pool safety in the summer months.
Yes.
You said you do a lot of pool fences and pool fencing, and I know that because you buy them from me. So what recommendations, especially up north, do you recommend to people for water safety, for pool safety in the summertime?
Well, you definitely have the layers of protection.
Right.
I know that you guys talk about that constantly.
Yeah, but you can't do it enough, so you can go through them again.
So alarms on doors.
Right.
Definitely alarms on doors. The supervision, making sure someone is responsible at all, and adult is responsible, not just saying, "Oh, are you going to? Oh, he's out there. He's going to watch the child."
Right.
You are the one that is responsible until you're relieved.
Right. So when you're using the pool, a water watcher of some kind.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But alarms on doors, yes, good to have. How many times do you walk by a car alarm and not even turn your head anymore?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And so the alarms on the door, they're good, but people get desensitized to the alarm. So don't count on that.
The ones I like are the ones where you push a button and then you have 15 seconds to open the door, go through it, close it behind you. And if you don't push the button, which a child wouldn't do because the button is 5 feet up in the air, if you don't push the button and you open the door, the alarm goes off. So that way it's not an alarm you get desensitized to because you only hear it when someone opens the door incorrectly.
Right.
So those are kind of cool.
Yeah, those are.
But you're right. The normal like ADT security, ding ding ding,
chimes on the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of you don't even hear it anymore.
I don't know.
But the pool fence is the best layer of protection.
Right.
I mean, they're pool alarms, but why even let the child get that far?
Sure.
So, if you're going to do one thing, you do the fence. That's
right.
The safest, most foolproof way, most convenient thing for you to have for water safety around your pool.
I agree. And then obviously past the pool fence, like you said, pool alarms, which those have their own issues, false alarms.
Right.
They don't go off all the time. They don't go off that quickly.
Right.
There's some flaws to those.
Or it's electronic and it sits outside
right.
all year round. So,
yeah, it's bound to screw up. And then swimming lessons obviously are important.
Yes, swimming lessons and the infant swim program.
Yeah,
that's a great program. It's cool to watch the little kids float like that.
Yeah, that is.
And being CPR trained also.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's great. Is there anything? I know you got an appointment to go to soon. Is there anything you want to leave us with before I let you go?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything.
If someone is in the New England area and they want to get a hold of you, how can they find you?
They can look for Safe Solutions.
Okay.
Of New England.
Okay.
Online, you can just Google Google search childproofing. Okay. There are only 2 people in the Boston area, so you're going to get one of us. But if you're also in other areas, there's a International Association for Child Safety.
Okay.
And they have their own website. And you can click on a state and you can find a child proofer, and you can click on a state and find a pool fencer.
Very cool.
So if you're in other parts of the country, that's the best way. Go to that website. You can see if people are certified and a professional child proofer. You don't really want to get a handyman. They might be fine doing something, but they don't know what to get. Or if it's the first time they're doing a gate, it's probably going to cost you more because it's going to take them longer than, it might take them an hour when it takes me 20 minutes. So
right. It makes sense.
Right. So
you could get a general contractor to fix your fence, but probably you didn't want to.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Go with the specialist.
Exactly. And so you can be a licensed childproofer. I didn't know that, from the International Association of Child Safety.
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
They have a certification exam, and
do you have to renew it, or is it one time?
They're looking into doing more continuing ed credits. It's certified through them, so
okay.
It's just another step to make it more of a professional.
Absolutely. Profession. Yeah.
Professional.
Professional profession, right? Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, and it's good seeing you.
Yeah, you too. Always. And I think, I don't know when the next one is. I think the next one might be Wednesday. I could be wrong, though. Oh, no, tomorrow. We have someone tomorrow. So very cool.
What is the topic tomorrow?
Tomorrow, I believe, is water safety, but a different angle on it. I have to look at the calendar and see who tomorrow is. I'm forgetting right now. Okay. But I think, since it is Water Safety Month, trying to hit water safety all month long. So that's it.
All right. Well,
all right, man.
Take care. Good seeing you.
All right. Take care, Tom.
All right, bye.